Top 10 Things That Happened in Less Than a Second. Hi everyone, welcome to InfoQuarks HQ. In this video, we see the top 10 things that happened in less than a second. Before that, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get notified. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. Time does not play a role in the history of the universe. Stars are born, live, and die. Billions of years have passed in the vast space. Einstein showed us that time really matters only when someone can influence it. This list looks at events or inventions that can be measured in basic research in less than a second. 10. Extinction event, asteroid impact in Mesozoic era. In the last extinction at the end of the Mesozoic era 66 million years ago, a mountain-sized asteroid crashed into the Earth at a speed of about 40,000 miles per hour. The total value is equivalent to about 100 trillion tons of TNT. Scientist Joanna Morgan said all objects within 600 miles of the impact point were destroyed by the fireball immediately or within a few seconds. 9. Conscious thought. Archimedes is working to solve the problem of whether the crown is made of pure gold when he walks out of the bathroom and yells "Eureka!" naked across the street. He realized that when the water rises while sitting down, the buoyancy on his body is equal to the weight of the lost water. Now, he has the opportunity to measure the gold content in the crown according to his Archimedes principle. When Archimedes is working hard to solve this problem during this time, his eureka arrived unexpectedly every moment. Studies of neural responses to stimuli have shown that it takes 300 to 500 milliseconds, half a second, for the brain to respond and send signals to the body. 8. The bullet that killed Lincoln. On April 14, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln and his wife saw our American cousin at the Ford Theater in Washington, D.C. John Wilkes Booth sneaked into his private box and fired a bullet from a .44 caliber pistol. Although Lincoln died for about 9 hours, the process that eventually led to his death was much faster. The ammunition is as small as Derringer, and the bullet will still leave the pistol after pulling the trigger and producing a significant impact. When the gun hammer hits the firing pin, the bullet is fired at a speed of 500 to 700 feet per second. The ball moved from the barrel to the point of impact within a few thousandths of a second. 7. Edison turns on his light bulbs. Thomas Edison was not the first to experiment with lighting a room with electricity. In 1802, Humphrey Davy invented the first electric light, called the arc light. However, it does not take long and is too bright for daily use. In 1874, Toronto medical electricians Henry Woodward and Matthew Evans made lamps using various carbon rods between electrodes in a glass bottle filled with nitrogen. They were unable to sell their inventions and eventually sold their patents to Edison. Edison improved his work and revolutionized the light bulb industry. On December 31, 1879, Edison pressed a switch that caused current to flow through the wire and took few seconds to be fully lit. 6. Radio, first wireless message across the Atlantic. Using Samuel Morse's code, the telegraph requires keys, batteries, cables and poles between the cable and the receiving station. The telegram has been used for about 50 years as a wireless version of Guglielmo Marconi. At the end of the 19th century, Marconi proved that everyone was wrong when sending wireless messages across the Atlantic Ocean. Beginning in 1894, Marconi began to send messages over short distances, and finally sent messages across the English Channel in 1899. 5. Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. In 1945, 2 atomic bombs fell on Japan. The little boy in Hiroshima and the fat man in Nagasaki immediately changed the course of World War II. The bomb caused great damage for decades. The little boy was a uranium bomb that exploded about 13 tons. This fat guy is studying plutonium and has generated 21 tons of force. When a free neutron collides with an atomic nucleus, the radioactive material atom hits another 2 or 3 free neutrons. This causes energy to be released, and the newly released neutrons hit more atomic nuclei. This chain reaction of energy release spreads almost immediately. Free neutrons move at 3% of the speed of light. Considering the number of generations required for the chain reaction, the entire process takes about 1 microsecond or less 1/millionth of a second. 4. Transistor switching speeds. The transistor, invented at the end of 1947, revolutionized the electronics industry in the 20th century. The efforts of inventors William Shockley, John Bardeen and Walter Brattain eventually won the Nobel Prize. The switching speeds of these early germanium transistors exceeded 60 GHz, which meant that the change required approximately 20 nanoseconds, 1/1000th of a second. Such as switching silicon germanium and creating digital transistors. Transistor chips have built-in resistors, greatly expand the capabilities of transistors. Today, the fastest switching transistors can operate at an astonishing frequency of 800 GHz or higher. 3. Internet's first message. On October 29, 1969, researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles sent the first message via an experimental link called ARPANET through a networked computer. The message received by Stanford University researchers was low. It should have read login, because it is the system password. However, the system crashed after 2 letters. Both schools have recently installed what we now know as the Interface Message Processor or router. After Stanford University received its IMP, it laid a high-speed line to connect them. There is now a 2-node network that allows someone to use a computer in one school to access the resources of a computer in another school. The ARPANET line speed at this time is 50 kilobits per second. No wonder we are so angry when it only takes a few seconds to load the page today. In 1969, they set the bar quite high. 2. Search engine results. Archie was founded in 1990 and is widely known as the first search engine. By using a variety of methods to narrow the search scope of Archie, it takes much longer to select different options than to return search results. Archie and possible friends Veronica and Jughead, there is only one option to search for: the title and description. None of them index the content of the documents found. In the next few years, more search engines will appear, but they are not crawling the full text of every indexed page in web crawlers. 1994. We all remember using Lycos, Excite, AltaVista and Ask Jeeves once or twice. We still remember to connect to the phone line and wait for the seemingly eternal result, in fact only a few seconds, to get our result. 1. Supernovae. There is evidence that supernovae in the universe are ultimately responsible for the settlement of the Milky Way, the solar system and our little blue sphere. Scientists measured the remains of the Cassiopeia explosion in 1680, which included calcium, sulfur, silicon, iron, and most importantly oxygen. They found small amounts of phosphorus, carbon, nitrogen and hydrogen. Everything needed to produce DNA is there. A supernova close to home may trigger a strong lightning strike, thereby changing the dynamics of the landscape, knocking our ancestors out of the bushes, and forcing them to quickly adapt to the new situation. The most common type of supernova is core collapse. When our solar mass is 10 to 50 times the mass of the Sun, hydrogen is exhausted and starts to burn its helium. It burns through successive elements in the periodic table until it reaches iron. Nothing can stop its core from collapsing, and the outer edge collapses at 23% of the speed of light, 70,000 meters per second. After a quarter of a second, the remaining material will be reflected by the core, forming the initial light stage. These are the top 10 things that happened in less than a second. Hope you liked this video. If you want more content like this, please subscribe to InfoQuarks HQ and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified.